The Legions of Athena. Chapter 26. Odysseus sat in the cockpit of his mecha making his final calibrations, checking the output of the machine before battle. As he entered the launch coordinates into the system, he realized just how much war had changed. Not too long ago he had been in another war, one which history books said that his army was victorious in. But Odysseus knew better. He knew that the Trojan War had no victors. The Trojan War is called as the last war of mortals, and with good reason. It marked the end of the kingdom of men. You see, the Greek continent was the last of the continents to hold on to monarchy. Every other continent had already been claimed by a god before the Trojan War began. Though the official reason for the war was the abduction of Helen by Paris, the war itself had deeper roots. The Greek continent consisted of many smaller kingdoms under civil unrest. But with the abduction of Helen, one man saw it as an opportunity to unite the Greeks once and for all, the leader of the assault on Troy, Agamemnon, the king of Argos. He firmly believed that uniting the remaining free cities of men was the only way they would survive in the world of gods. He may have been right, but one would never know. For even though the Greeks had won against Troy, the result was not what they had hoped for. Odysseus himself had been lost at sea for 10 years on his way back from the war. When he had arrived home, instead of a united kingdom, he found petty kings bickering and at the brink of another civil war. Agamemnon himself had been driven mad in the aftermath of the war. With his downfall, the hope for a united kingdom died as well. It didn't take long after that for the Olympian Council to deem the continent unfit for human rule. Dionysus, the youngest among the Olympian gods, had claimed the lands for himself under the order of the god King Zeus. Today, the Greek continent is no more. Argos, Troy, and his own kingdom of Ithaca were all united into the country of wine, Bacchus. Odysseus had reached outside the Aegis and his mecha was ready for battle. Just the sight of his machine sent waves of cheers across the battlefield. He wasn't alone. At his side was another mecha. But unlike his own machine, this one was not humanoid in nature. Instead, it was built in the shape of a dog. Unlike the other mechas, this one was unmanned. Instead, it ran on one of the most advanced artificial intelligence systems in the world. The AI had been developed by Athena and Daedalus together in the hope of replacing soldiers altogether one day. But sadly, the AI was limited to just this one mecha for now, and entrusted to Odysseus as his partner in battle. Odysseus named it Argos after a very loyal dog he had back when he was still king of Ithaca. When Odysseus returned home after being lost at sea for 10 years, no one had recognized him, not even his own wife and children. Except for old Argos, that is, who realized who he was immediately. So the warrior could not think of a better name for his partner than that of his most loyal companion. War raged around them, but nothing Mars had to offer could match the might of his mecha. With his enormous circular shield, shoulder turrets, and huge lance, nothing was a challenge. Even the dreaded ram tanks turned to mere chew toys to Argos's razor-sharp teeth. But it wasn't tanks or soldiers that he had come to face. His adversary had spotted him and marched forward to face him in combat, and he was a god. All around them the fighting stopped as the two behemoths faced each other in battle. On one side stood a 20-foot-tall machine of bronze and iron. The peak of technology itself, manned by a tested veteran of tremendous intelligence, Odysseus. On the other stood a monster of thick bronze skin and blood-red eyes, the very personification of terror, Phobos. Neither spoke, but both knew. Today, only one would survive. It was Phobos who attacked first. He lunged forward with his great club straight for the head, but Odysseus would not fall prey to such an obvious attack. He blocked it with his shield instantly. Odysseus did not enjoy battle, but one would never guess that from the way he fought. While most combatants relied on strength or speed in battle, the erstwhile king of Ithaca fought with a very specific skill, precision. Phobos kept at the attack. He slammed his club down repeatedly on the shield. Odysseus kept his guard up and his shield high. He was known for his patience in battle, but he couldn't wait forever. The terror god's strength was truly immense and his shield had already dented. But luckily, Phobos did not try to vary his attack pattern. Even after observing that his blows were not penetrating the defense, he still kept at it stubbornly. But others didn't share his tenacity. A ram tank had just positioned itself to the right with a clear shot at Odysseus, but before the gunner could pull the trigger, a set of metal teeth cut through the dual cannons of the tank. Then, with a graceful leap, Argos had fired at the tank, reducing it to rubble. Argos circled the two giant combatants on Odysseus's orders to ensure nothing else interfered. With that, Odysseus readied to strike. Phobos was tiring from his strikes and Odysseus saw that. He noticed a pattern as well, 2 consecutive hits followed by a harder third strike. That was his opening. The hard strike came, and Odysseus tilted his shield just enough to make his club clear to the side. In one fluid movement, his lance sliced precisely at the god's neck. That might have been the end of it, but Phobos had been in countless battles as well. He jerked his neck to the side on instinct, but the lance did not miss completely. Odysseus left a long gash to the side of the terror god's neck. His blade had went straight through, chopping off clumps of his long wild hair. Phobos withdrew, dropping his club to the ground. His hand went straight to cover his neck, which was bleeding profusely. He couldn't believe it. He had smacked at least 30 strikes on the Athenian, but he had managed to draw first blood with just one. Phobos was enraged by this. He readied his machine gun and blasted it towards Odysseus, forcing him to take cover behind his shield. Inside the mecha, Odysseus took a deep breath. His power was down to 73%. Though his shield had taken most of the damage, the machine's arm had been strained as well. But Phobos had reacted just as he had suspected. Blinded by rage, he was emptying his bullets at Odysseus. Odysseus had noted his gun. It was nothing special. It would not pierce his mecha's armor, and more importantly, it had a finite amount of bullets. With a final click, Phobos had run out of ammunition. That was the moment Odysseus decided to finish this. He dropped his shield and aimed his lance straight at Phobos. The terror god realized his folly. His gun was empty and his club was too far away, but he would not fall so easily. He blocked the lance with his machine gun, but the spear pierced straight through. The move had forced it to miss its mark and hit the god's shoulder instead. Phobos grabbed the lance, hoping that would end the attack, but Odysseus had other plans. His shoulder cannons fired straight at the terror god, and at such a close range it sent the 300-ton monster reeling to the ground. This would have been enough to kill most mortals and monsters, but Phobos was a god. He got up again drenched in blood, his arms clenched for a fistfight, but Odysseus was not. Worried, 10 more minutes and the god would fall. But that's when he heard it, a roar that deafened the entire battlefield. Maximus was watching Odysseus on screen when he heard it, when they all heard it. The ungodly roar that seemed to stop time itself. Everyone froze on hearing it, from the techs monitoring inside the room to the soldiers out on the battlefield. Everyone raised their eyes to the sky to see its origin, and there it was. From the northwest corner of the sky, something had just dropped from the clouds, heading towards the city of Athens. Maximus had never seen anything like it. It was big. No, that was an understatement. It was immense, enormous, gigantic. It moved through the sky easily, larger than a blue whale. It was shaped like a whale as well, at least its front was. But where a whale would end with its tail fin, this creature's extended out into a long snake-like tail. It also had 6 large flippers that slowly moved in the air, mimicking wings. Its entire body was covered in brown leathery skin that mimicked those of reptiles, and a long snout filled with teeth the size of a truck. It had something strapped on its wide snout as well, a humongous iron battering ram, held in place by chains tied across its body, and it was aimed straight at the city. The room had fallen under an eerie silence, and Athena was the first to whisper, "It has arrived." Is that a dragon?" Hedger said, trembling at the sight of the beast. "I wish it was just a dragon," Athena said. "That is something much more ancient, a serpent dragon." Maximus had no idea what that was, but when a goddess wished to face a dragon instead of that thing, he knew it was time to be concerned. "A drakon. But they are supposed to be extinct," Mia said. "Yes. From what I remember, the last one was slain a while back by Hercules. The tale has been immortalized in his 12 labors," Achilles said calmly. Maximus had no idea how Achilles kept his cool. He knew the story Achilles mentioned. Hercules had slain a great beast in order to retrieve some sort of mythical treasure called the Golden Apple of Hesperides. But he had always assumed the creature in the tale was a dragon, not a monstrosity like this. They were, Athena said, but a brilliant scientist had unlocked the key to reviving them. Sadly, she was killed before her work came into fruition. What remained of her research fell into the hands of Ares. "Can the Aegis Wall withstand something like that?" Lady Pallas asked the goddess. Athena was stone-faced and didn't answer. Instead, she spoke into her microphone, and her message was broadcast to her entire war host. "Everyone retreat into the city. All units are to stay within the Aegis Wall." That is an order. The ground forces didn't need telling twice. The entire Minervian army was retreating into the city limits. Even Odysseus was forced to head back before finishing his battle with the terror god. All the while, the serpent dragon slowly flew closer to Athens, covering the fields below under its shadow. The army was back inside and with nothing to oppose them. Ares had moved his troops as close to the Aegis as they could, as they waited for the drakon to arrive. Athena watched as one of her mentor's creations moved towards them, as a harbinger of the end. The drakon was the ace up Ares' sleeve, his answer to breaking the Aegis, and Athena knew the beast just might do the trick. As the drakon got closer, she ordered the city's cannons to fire at the beast, but the shots didn't even make it flinch. She could feel the tension in the room and the fear in the eyes of her men. She had just ordered a retreat and allowed Ares to position his men too close to the city. Her men were losing hope. The drakon let out another hideous roar as it inched closer to the city. The cannons were ineffective. Icarus and his 8th Legion had tried their luck as well, but nothing. Athena sat with her hand on her forehead, rubbing her temple lightly. The beast would arrive at her doorsteps within 15 minutes, and she knew what she had to do. "Pallas, ready the suit," Athena said, getting off her chair. "I will handle this personally." This has been a chapter from Book 2 of the new World Odyssey Series, The Legions of Athena. Links to the books in the bio. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next chapter.